You know that feeling when your check engine light comes on? That specific drop in your stomach before you even know what it means. If you've got nothing saved, the next 5 seconds play out the same way every time. You're not thinking about the car. You're already doing math. What do I have right now? What's coming out this week? Can I even afford to find out what's wrong? You call a mechanic. They give you a number. You call another one, hoping it's lower. Then a third. Now you've got 3 different opinions, and you're more confused than when you started. Except now you're also stressed, late to work, and you still haven't fixed anything. Here's the part that actually costs you. When you finally get it repaired under that kind of pressure, you don't get it fixed right. You get it fixed cheaply. And 6 months later, you're back in the same parking lot with the same light on. Now, play that exact same morning. Same car, same light, same noise coming from somewhere under the hood. But this time, there's $10,000 in your account. Your stomach still drops. You're human. But the next 5 seconds are different. You're not scrambling. You're not running triage on your budget. You call one good mechanic. You get the actual diagnosis. And you ask a completely different question. Not how cheap can this be, but what's the fix that doesn't bring me back here in 3 months? A real question, a clear head, a better decision. Not because you spent more money, because you had enough to think straight. That's what $10,000 actually buys you. Not things, not luxury, not a new life. Just enough room to stop making decisions from panic. And that shift from panic to clarity quietly changes everything else. Stay with this.
Now, if you want to just see the 7 points, you can skip to this timestamp. But wait a second. You have to understand where's the issue first. And for that, this video moves in 3 sections. The first is where we understand what the actual issue is. Not what you think it is, but what it is in reality. What's actually happening to your life when there's no cushion. The second is 7 specific things that change the moment you cross $10,000. Not abstract psychology, actual things you stop doing and start doing. And the third is actually something most people finally getting $10,000 do that takes them to 0 again. And that one thing can make or break the whole effort it took you to get your 10 grand. And there's a bonus tip somewhere hidden in the video, something that helped me get my first $10,000 way faster than all my peers. Stick through this. It's not a money problem, it's a decision problem. You stop applying for jobs that take 3 interviews, not because you're lazy, because you need a paycheck before the second interview even happens. You take the first salary offer on the table, not because you think it's fair, because you're not sure what happens to you if they pull it. You say yes to the overtime you don't want, not because you're not setting boundaries, because falling short before the end of the month is worse than being tired. You stay in the apartment with the mold growing in the bathroom corner, not because you don't know it's bad, because breaking the lease costs more than you have right now. This is what having no savings actually does to you. It isn't that you can't afford things, it's that you can't afford to be wrong. And when you can't afford to be wrong, you stop making decisions. The balance makes them for you, quietly, one by one, until one day you look at your life and realize you didn't really choose most of it. You just couldn't say no to any of it. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. When you've operated this way long enough, it stops feeling like financial pressure, it starts feeling like personality. You describe yourself as cautious, realistic, someone who doesn't take unnecessary risks. That's not your personality. That's your bank account making decisions and calling them your character. Think about that for a second. Because that one shift from this is who I am to this is what the balance is doing to me is the first thing $10,000 actually changes. Not the car, not the rent, not the job. Your relationship with the cage you've been living in.
The first thing that changes? Deadlines stop making your decisions. Think about the last time you made a decision you didn't fully believe in. There was probably a deadline attached to it. Sign by Friday, accept by end of week. We need an answer. Without savings, deadlines have leverage over you because waiting costs you something you can't absorb. With $10,000, the deadline becomes theirs, not yours. You can ask for more time. You can actually think. You can say, "Let me get back to you," and mean it. That one thing, the ability to make time before deciding, changes the quality of every major decision you make for the rest of your life. The second thing that changes, you stop hoping nothing breaks this month. There's a specific prayer that people living paycheck to paycheck carry quietly. Please, not this month. Not the car, not the teeth, not the phone, not the fridge, not now. The prayer isn't dramatic, it's just there, every month, a low hum of hope that nothing goes wrong. With $10,000, the prayer stops. Not because nothing breaks, things still break, but you stop needing them not to. That quiet relief of not carrying that prayer is one of the first things people describe after crossing $10,000. They couldn't name what was gone, only that something was lighter. The third thing that changes, you stop saying yes to things you want to say no to. The overtime you didn't want, the social event you couldn't afford to skip, the favor you did because you couldn't risk the relationship. You've said yes to things like this not because you wanted to, but because the alternative felt like something you couldn't absorb. With $10,000 behind you, the word no becomes survivable. Not easy, not comfortable, but survivable. And once no is survivable, your actual preferences start showing up in your life for the first time.
The fourth thing that changes, your boss has less power over you than you think. This one surprises people. Your manager's ability to control you is almost entirely dependent on how much you need your next paycheck. That's it. The raise you didn't ask for, the unreasonable request you absorbed, the culture you stayed in because leaving felt dangerous. None of that is about them being powerful. It's about you not having enough runway to explore alternatives. $10,000 is roughly 3 months of living expenses for most people. 3 months is enough to find something better. Even just knowing that, without acting on it, changes how you show up at work. People feel the difference between someone who needs the job and someone who's choosing the job. Your entire negotiation position shifts without you saying a word.
The fifth thing that changes, you start solving next year's problems instead of this week's. Without savings, your entire mental bandwidth is consumed by the immediate. You can't think about the certification that would boost your income because you're thinking about this Friday. You can't think about moving to a city with better opportunities because you're thinking about next month's rent. You can't build toward anything because you're too busy maintaining the ground underneath you. $10,000 doesn't hand you a plan, but it gives you enough clearance to finally think further than the next paycheck. And the moment you can think 6 months out, you start making different decisions. Not because you suddenly have a strategy, because you finally have enough space to notice opportunities you were walking past every day without seeing. The sixth thing that changes, other people start treating you differently. This one almost nobody talks about. When you carry financial stress, it leaks. Into your posture, into the conversations you cut short, into the way you laugh at things that aren't funny because you can't afford to lose a connection, into how often you agree when you want to disagree. You don't announce it, but people feel it. The subtle desperation in someone who can't afford to walk away from anything. When the pressure starts to lift, the leak stops. You hold conversations differently. You disagree when you used to go quiet. You leave rooms you used to stay in. From the inside, it doesn't feel dramatic. It just feels like breathing slightly easier. But the people around you notice. The fear you were carrying, even though you never named it out loud, was visible. And when it starts to fade, that's visible too.
The seventh thing that changes, you stop spending to perform. This one is uncomfortable. Once the pressure lifts enough that you're not constantly in survival mode, something clarifies. You start seeing how much of your spending was never actually for you. The dinner you couldn't cover, but went to anyway, because you didn't want to be the one who couldn't. The item you put on the card, because saying no would have meant explaining yourself. And explaining yourself meant admitting something you weren't ready to say out loud. Here's what $10,000 eventually shows you. The people you were spending to impress either didn't notice, didn't care, or were wanting their own numbers in the dark at their own hour, keeping it quiet for the same reasons you were. Every dollar you spent performing a version of yourself that wasn't real is a dollar that didn't go toward building the version you actually want to become. $10,000 is the number where the performance starts to feel optional. And once it feels optional, you stop.
So now you know what changes. But before you leave this video, you might want to hear what's coming next. There's something almost nobody talks about. The part that's actually hiding inside this video. Why most people who hit 10,000 end up back at 0 within a year. The reason most people never reach the 7th one. See, before 10,000, you were getting through, let's say, on $3,000 a month, for example. What people do is that they start to elevate their lifestyle, slowly, almost invisibly. But after the lifestyle adjusts, now you need $3,900 just to maintain the new normal. Almost everyone who hits 10,000 for the first time makes the same mistake within 6 months. They spend it. Not recklessly, reasonably. The car is old. The apartment is small. They've been grinding for a year and a half. They've earned a little breathing room. Each individual decision makes complete sense. Together, they do something quiet and devastating. They raise the floor. Income didn't change, but the minimum did. And the cushion evaporates, maintaining the upgrade. Then you start over. But now the target is bigger because the baseline costs more. This is why you can find people who've saved and spent their first 10,000 3 separate times, genuinely confused about why it never sticks. The money wasn't the problem. The frame was. They treated 10,000 like a finish line. It isn't. It's the starting line for a completely different way of making decisions. And if you spend it before you understand that, you're not just back at 0. You're back at 0 with a more expensive life to maintain.
The people who hold it and build from it, they figured out one thing early. $10,000 is not a reward, it's a tool. And the difference between those two frames determines everything that happens next. If there are two people, same income, same month, both of them hit $10,000 in savings. Person 1 immediately starts sleeping better, stops flinching at restaurant bills, asks for the raise, starts interviewing for the job they've been wanting. Person 2 hits the exact same number and feels almost nothing. Still checks the account every morning like it might disappear. Still says yes to everything. Still carries the quiet prayer. Same balance, completely different outcome. If the number itself doesn't cause the shift, what does? The proof. Not the money, the evidence. Somewhere in the months before that account hit $10,000, person 1 made a series of small trades. Said no to the thing they wanted today because of the thing they were building for later. Did it again and again. Each trade was a piece of evidence stacking up inside them that they can absorb a hit, that they can delay something, that the future version of themselves is real enough to sacrifice for. By the time the account showed 5 figures, the nervous system already knew, I can do this. Person 2 received $10,000 another way, a bonus, a refund, a gift, without ever doing the proving. Same number, no evidence behind it.
You don't build $10,000 and then become the person who holds it. You become that person first,
decision by decision, and the $10,000 shows up almost as an afterthought. So here's the bonus tip. This is the part hiding in this video. The move isn't a savings rate. It isn't automation. It isn't tracking every dollar. Before any purchase that isn't rent, food, or something you genuinely need, anything over $50, do one piece of math first. Take the price, multiply it by 4. That's roughly what that amount becomes if it's invested correctly for 15 years, compounding the whole way through. $200 becomes $800. A $2,000 I've earned this becomes $8,000 you didn't build. Now, don't leave it abstract. Name what it becomes. Not a number in a fund. Name the specific thing you'd buy if that $800 were in your account right now. A flight somewhere you've been wanting to go. 3 months of rent if something goes wrong. An option you've been wanting to have. Now, you're not choosing between spending money and some distant stranger's retirement account. You're choosing between 2 purchases you can both see clearly. One now, one bigger, later. Named. That's a trade your brain can feel. And every time you make that trade, every time you choose the named future thing, you're stacking another piece of evidence. That's what builds the person who can hold $10,000. Not discipline, proof.
You remember that check engine light we talked about earlier in this video? There's a version of you that sees it and the prayer starts immediately. Please, not now, not this month. And there's a version of you that sees it and just thinks, okay, what do we need to do here? Same car, same light, same bill at the end of it. Completely different experience of the same Wednesday morning. That shift isn't luck. It isn't income. It's one number, $10,000, doing exactly one thing, giving you enough room to stop reacting and start deciding. And once you're deciding instead of reacting, every single thing on that list of 7 starts to move. The deadlines, the boss, the word no, the spending you were doing for other people, the version of yourself that kept saying yes to things you wanted to say no to. All of it from one number. Not because $10,000 is magic, because it's proof. Proof that you can hold something. Proof that the future version of you is worth building toward. The cage was never your personality. It was just your balance. You don't become wealthy because you save money. You save money because you're becoming someone who thinks differently. If this shifted something for you, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Give this video a thumbs up. This channel exists for people who want to understand how money actually works. Not the polished version, the real mechanics. And that was me, the Dollar Dad. See you in the next one.